Can you believe the conference is around the corner? It feels like hopefully you all have been anticipating it as long as we have, and I know you submitted many months ago for this session. So hopefully we're helping remind you to think about it again as you prep for our upcoming conference. We're so excited to see you in how many days, Maura?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
I don't know
Very
either.
few.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be with you all this morning. We will record this session if you didn't see that already. So if you want to refer back to it, or if you've got a panel or a group of presenters and you want to make sure that everyone's able to get the content, we'll make sure to share this recording out with you all. But we're excited to connect with you today to give you a bit of a look into the conference, what's to come, what's happening, what are the speaker resources and supports that we're providing this year, what to expect and how we can help you. Hopefully we cover all the content that you might be thinking about, questions that you already have if you haven't asked them, but if not, we'll make sure to hold plenty of time at the end for any questions that you do have, or of course, make sure you've got a good email to reach out to us if it's a one-on-one question that you want to ask in a different setting. I'm Jamie Jacobs. I serve as Deputy Director here at MCAN, and I'm with alongside my colleague Maura, who serves as our Director of Network Engagement and Events. Some of you, I know your names and you're not new to us. Some of you, this will be your first time presenting or maybe even attending our conference. This is our 14th annual conference, and we will be located in Lansing this year. Hopefully you already know that you've got your details on your calendar, but we will be hosted at the Lansing Center in downtown Lansing this year. We wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek around what to anticipate in terms of size and scope of the event this year. We're expecting about 750 full conference attendees, meaning they'll be there from sort of beginning to end of the conference. We have 65 breakout sessions. This is across both those traditional sessions and learning labs that we'll talk more about later on in this session, and there are 135 of you. We're so excited. You are what brings the energy and the content by and large to the conference and play a really pivotal, important role. And there's 135 of you, and really excited to have you as part of the event. And then lastly, if you are not new to the conference, you'll remember we host a higher ed showcase and networking reception before the awards dinner on the first day on Tuesday. We are excited to have you and 65 of our institutions represented at that event who want to connect with our attendees to talk about great new exciting things happening at their institutions. So I want to pause before we get into the content of thinking about your sessions, thinking about what attendees are looking for, and making sure you feel supported as a speaker, and talk to you a little bit about the conference theme this year. Hopefully you saw it when you applied. Hopefully you've seen it as you've been registering, and we've been pushing some details about it. But the theme for this year's conference is Standing Firm, College Still Matters. As I think about that theme, I'd love you to think about that theme and the way we're thinking about it as you work to solidify the remarks for your session. You'll see here a few bullets of how I'm breaking down how I'm thinking about and how we're at MCAN thinking about this theme. We're really hoping to actively defend, and move to the offense on the value of higher education through conversations like this at the conference, but also conversations that often maybe even happen one-on-one in offices, in your office with students or parents or families. We're looking to actively challenge misinformation. We know that, we hope that you know and agree that higher education and college plays a pivotal role in the state and community's economic prosperity, but also in individuals' access to economic independence, and that there is misinformation and more intentional misinformation that's being shared out through media or other sources to discourage students from pursuing post-secondary, and we need you to be part of the active offense in challenging that misinformation and really putting facts out in front of people. We are hoping through this conference to reaffirm our commitment and your commitment to equity and access, specifically for first-generation students, low-income students, and students of color. And then, as always, looking to advance our work as a state towards the state's 60 by 30 goal. So as you think about your remarks that you've already been thinking about, but are actually putting your slides together or your handouts together, I'd love for you to think about how you can emphasize one or more parts of this theme in your session. Make it authentic, make it real, make it genuine. But no doubt there is a piece of each of in each of your sessions, there is a piece of this conference theme, and we'd love for you to really bring that to life during your session. We just gave you a quick snapshot here of the flow of the conference. So hopefully you've noticed through the speaker hub, which Maura will make sure to orient you to if you haven't spent a lot of time on it. But I'm sure all of you have done your tasks and at least have spent some time on it. You usually know when your session is happening, but sometimes it's hard to know where does it happen in the context and the flow of all the other sessions that are going on, whether that's a keynote session, a meal, or another set of breakout sessions. So you can always find this on our website, the conference website, but just wanted to give you a snap here of the flow of the 2 days. We run this a 1.5 day, really long 1.5 day conference. We'll kick off on Tuesday around 10 a.m. Breakfast at 9. Please join us for breakfast, but we'll kick off with content and a welcome from our executive director, Ryan, with a state of the network update, and then we'll move right into session 1 in those breakout sessions. We'll break for lunch in our first keynote speaker and then move back to breakout sessions for 2 back-to-back breakout sessions. And we give folks plenty of passing time between those sessions. We'll then move into that higher ed showcase and networking reception, which pushes us right into our College Access Impact Awards dinner. Hopefully you're attending the full conference and all of these things are part of your registration, and we'd hope to see you there. We'll then be back on Wednesday morning for breakfast and Spark Talks from 3 Michiganders that you may know well, from network partners and partners of many of you all. And then wrap up with 2 more breakout sessions. This is where our Lightning Lab sessions are also happening. And then we'll have our conference closing, which is our 2nd annual Take Flight pitch competition for those who were with us last year. So that's just to give you a sense of what the flow will look like as you think about your session, whether you're session 1 or session 3 or session 5. Hopefully you get a visual here of how that fits into the flow of the full 2 days. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about designing your sessions. I imagine some of you have been thinking about this session for months and you've already put slides together. And then I know there's at least a significant number of you that look a little more like me and you haven't put your slides together yet. And I feel totally fine about that. I want you to feel fine about that. What we're going to talk to you about, what I'm going to talk to you about in this next couple of slides, is the feedback we hear from our conference attendees and our network members in terms of what they're hoping for and what they love out of the sessions that they attend. That way, as you're putting the finishing touches or maybe just putting all of your thoughts down on paper for your session, you can think in context of what our attendees have told us over the last 13 years. So the first thing I want to talk about is being clear in a lot of different respects. The first is folks rely a ton on the about 100-word abstract and title that you've provided that we will put both in the conference app and the conference program that will be in front of folks. As you know, as you've attended conferences, it's sometimes really hard to understand which session to pick and what is a session about. So we'd really hope that we try to ensure that your session title and description is clear in terms of what and who, what you're going to talk about and who's the primary audience, but we really hope you stick to that. If you forget what your abstract was, go back and take a look at it and do your best to stay as aligned in your content to that session abstract as possible. That is what people are expecting because that is all they know about your session. So pivot as necessary, especially as the landscape or things may have changed around you and what you're talking about, but do your best to stay aligned to what you've communicated to us and the attendees in terms of your session title and description. In alignment with that, think about there's 750 attendees. There is a wide range of org type, experience levels, roles, and really area focus of our attendees. Your best bet is to be focused on your content, but as wide reaching to be as relevant as possible across a variety of those pieces, a variety of experience levels, not just speaking to new professionals, but also thinking, or new folks to college access and success, but also people who've been doing this work for years. It will really benefit benefit the attendees, make sure it's a value add to all types of attendees, and get more of your information out to folks that are at the conference. The last piece on this clarity is folks love visuals. Think about how you can spruce up, whether it's a handout or something on a slide or even a one pager you bring up in front of folks. High impact, high quality visuals that reinforce your content that maybe words on a slide are super beneficial. And we always get really good feedback about that. That's usually when folks will bring out their cameras during a session to grab a photo to share with colleagues about a breakout session. So where that makes sense for your content, your org, and your materials, make sure to incorporate those visuals. What will leave a lasting impact on attendees? These are the things that always come up, no matter what year the conference is and no matter what our theme is. These three themes always rise to the top as we ask folks about the breakout sessions they attended. The first is that folks are looking for practical tools or resources. They want to think about how they can move to action based on something they learned in your session. It could be something small. Don't feel like this has got to be moving mountains, but small action steps that they could take with tools or resources provided by you or learnings from an effort within your community or your organization is really what folks are looking for. The next is that folks love a good case study. They love to hear about what happened in your organization, in your community, in your effort, and they want to they want some time during that session to think about how they could replicate that within their environment with their students. Help them to do that. A lot of times sessions really focus on a case study of what happened and what you led and what you learned. Help folks also take that next step to think about how might they replicate this in their environment, which no doubt is going to be slightly different than yours, but so many of the learnings that you had could really be increase efficiency as they look to replicate this work in their community or within their org. And the last is just be really transparent about what I mentioned, sort of sharing the good and the bad, but be really transparent about what didn't go well. We always say we can learn as much, if not more, in the things that did not go well as the things that did. Help your colleagues, help your network members not repeat the mistakes that you made when you moved on something. They want to hear that. Often that's what sticks with folks the most is they had high impact, but here's all the things we shouldn't think about if we're looking to replicate this or do something similar. So don't hesitate to share those. And really, we encourage you to do that. The last bit of piece around your session is collaboration. The number one word in the feedback that we receive, both in the positive, what did MCAN's conference provide, and in the critical, what could MCAN do better, is always around opportunities to network and collaborate with conference attendees. This is where you all come in. I think we often think about, oh, the networking collaboration happens in the in-between passing time, or it happens during a lunch session, or it happens during the networking reception, which is obviously built for that purpose. It also really happens in meaningful ways in the breakout sessions that you all lead. Um, Make sure that you've got quality time in your session to allow for deep conversation and peer exchange. I don't think your entire session needs to be focused on group conversations. They want to hear from you, sort of the expert in the room on the topic that's being talked about, but they learn a lot from also discussing what they're hearing with folks who might be sitting near them or around them from other communities across the state. Think about creative ways to do that. It could be folks that are sitting near them. You could also think about ways that you engage folks geographically in your room, but also always be thinking about sort of how do we help folks make genuine connections, not just, putting questions out to the audience to force them to discuss with folks, but what are some key questions that really might create an immediate but also lasting connection with someone else in the room. So think about intentionally the role that breakout sessions also play in this connection, networking, collaboration space, and lean into it as it makes sense for your session. The last thing we'll talk about in terms of content, and then we'll switch over to a lot of support and resources and reminders for you as a speaker, is what we've learned folks are not looking for. Sometimes I think it's really nice to talk about what folks don't want. People are pretty clear on what they don't want. They're not interested in sales pitches on a product or a service. You may have a product or a service, but talk about its impact. Talk about, lift up examples and case studies of where that product or service has been used. They're not looking for sales pitches. Folks are also, this is an interesting balance. Folks are not looking for a sit and get lecture that is clearly scripted, but they're also not looking to interact solely with the folks who attend. They are looking for you to provide expertise and guidance while also not spending the entire time sitting and getting from you. And they hate it when it feels a little bit scripted. So do your best to be genuine and organic in your content and engage both in this sort of telling and engaging and collaborating with the folks that are in the room. Folks love a good panel when they're leading a session because they love to share the mic. As an attendee, remember your thoughts as an attendee. You hate a large panel. You wish that Maura talked more and Jamie talked less. And why was there not more time to hear about that really cool thing that Maura brought up, right? Large panels in a 50-minute session make it really, really hard to get enough valuable information from each of those panelists. So if you're already planning a pretty large panel, and I'd say large is anywhere over 3 people in terms of the amount of time we have, we'd love to talk to you on this side about how you might share those perspectives in a different format. We'd encourage you to not have more than 3 panelists. It just doesn't give enough time for each one of them to share enough detail and for attendees to really engage with those panelists and sort of lift up their voice and understand their perspective well. And then the last thing that folks hate is in sort of an overly immersive session. So you heard me say folks don't want to sit and get. So you're like, we're going to work really hard to make sure folks are up and moving and really physically and mentally engaged in the session. It's got to work. If it's rushed or you are sort of doing the engagement experience for the sake of the engagement to hopefully get folks excited, they'll feel that and they'll know that. And some of them may even leave during your session. So engage folks and immerse them into the sort of session learnings as appropriate for the content. It's got to be authentic to you as the lead and to the content. So think about how you might engage folks in a peer exchange and other types of engaging activities during the session and balance that with lecture as it makes sense for, again, you and the content that you're sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Maura to talk about speaker resources, expectations, and all of that good jazz.
Thanks, Jamie. I do think actually you would did you want to talk and speak to anything on this slide? And I'm happy to fill in also.
I sure can. So, thanks for that, Maura. We added a quick snapshot here of the way that some
Yeah.
of the speaker resource center asks that we've made, which are usually a recommended ask, really come to life for our attendees. So for the first time this year, or the first time in a very long time, we will have a conference app. We will also have our traditional conference program, but we're also going to have an app this year, and we're excited for you all to interact with it. One of the really awesome things about the app is how you can then lead, engage, and sort of show your face and be connected to attendees in a much more seamless way. So you have seen some emails from us about get into the speaker resource hub and make sure you check when your session time is, what date is it, what is the location, meaning what room at the conference venue. But we've also said to you, upload your bio, put a headshot in there. Make sure you upload any materials, whether that's a handout or a PowerPoint deck, things like that. We added this snap here so you can see. We want you to look like these speakers. The way you look like these speakers, where folks can see your face, understand your role, and click in and not only connect with you via email or LinkedIn or any other sort of social media form, they can also grab the materials, right? If you upload a handout ahead of time or your PowerPoint slides ahead of time, they can engage in that. They can also engage in it post-conference and they can connect it back to you. So I just really, really encourage you to spend the time. We'll make sure you get a new fresh link into the resource hub as a follow-up to this session. It's worth your time to put your bio, your connection opportunities, your materials, and your photo into the Speaker Resource Center. It will deeply impact how much attendees engage with you and the content that you share at the conference. So we would love for you to look like these folks inside the conference app so that our attendees can really understand who you are and how to engage with you and the content you're leading at the conference.
I would love to answer though, Jamie. We have a question in the Q&A and so Teresa asked, when will we know when our session is? you can know now. All of this information is available to you in the Speaker Resource Center. Additionally, sessions have been published on the main conference page too. I was trying to grab a link to drop it in for you, but it looks like Cvent is maybe down in this moment and I can't access it. Classic. So I will make sure to follow up with both of those links. They've been shared in previous communication from us as well. But the Speaker Resource Center is your go-to for your session time, date, location, all of the things that Jamie was speaking to about updating your bio so that you get, really good engagement from folks, and also so people kind of know what to expect. I think it's a great way to help set expectations. And then also on the conference summary page, the conference website, everybody can access all of the sessions and they can see where they are and at what time. All right, let's see. I'm going to move on to room monitors. So one of the other resources for you on site is going to be your MCAN staff room monitor. There will be one MCAN staff for about like every 4 rooms. This is a change. So they're sectioned off by area, but they will be there to kind of greet you, make sure that you get settled in, answer any questions that you might have. Because there's not one person in every single room, please feel free to get started at the time of your presentation. We will have clocks on the tables up front so that you are able to keep time, because I know that there's not always clocks in the rooms at these big conferences. So please feel free to get started at your time. If there's a few people still straggling in, they'll come in, they'll get seated, they'll be polite. So you can get started. If you have any issues though, that room monitor, that MCAN staff member is your first go-to. You should go ahead and contact them, or look for them. They will be nearby, they will be visible. Ask them your question, and then they also have a tech person, a designated tech person on site if it is something technical. So they'll make sure that the right people get called in to help you get set up. For communication on site, if there are any big changes to scheduling, that's kind of the largest thing that might impact a large swath of you. Let's say a keynote speaker goes 30 minutes over and we've got to shift the timeline after that. We will communicate to everybody, presenters and attendees alike, via the app. So we will send a push notification through the app to let you know of a schedule change. If there's something specific to you, you gave us your phone numbers in your application, so we will just go ahead and reach out directly. If the monitor is in your room and your session's about to begin and you're not there, we will give you a call, we'll shoot you a text, we'll see what's going on. I think that about covers this slide. Jamie, should we answer the questions that are in here right now, or I haven't had a chance to?
I'm on it, so keep going.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about technology in the room. Please bring your own computer as well as an adapter that can connect to an HDMI cord. That should be very standard for any of you that have presented in the past. That adapter should be the one that you usually use. It's nothing fancy. Download your PowerPoint ahead of time. Let's talk about this one. We have received a lot of feedback from other people who have been in and out of the Lansing Center as attendees, and it is clear to us that the Wi-Fi is not reliable. We have looked into many, many options. We have worked with an external technical team unrelated to the Lansing Center on this, and unfortunately, there is very little that we can control and can do in a space this big. So please know, the Wi-Fi, just plan for it to not be reliable. The Wi-Fi will not be reliable. This should not be a huge concern because you should always be practicing downloading your PowerPoint ahead of time so that it is on your computer and you do not need to connect to the internet to access it. If you have questions about that, if, PowerPoint or technology isn't your jam, that's okay. I get it. You're so welcome to reach out to the conference email. I'm on that. And we'll share that email at the end. And additionally, if it's something like a little bit bigger, you're welcome to reach out to our contact at Message Makers. They're our audiovisual team. They're incredibly tech literate. And John Herman is his name, and he can help you out. Particularly if you are planning to show a video in your presentation, or if you have audio in your presentation, you'll want to make sure that that is embedded into your presentation. This is possible. It is possible. It is typically not an issue to do to put a video in your presentation so that it is also downloaded and does not require internet. So what does that look like? It means that you're not clicking a link in your presentation and it's opening elsewhere. No, that means that you need to connect to the internet. It means that if you have a video, it's directly in the PowerPoint. And if you want help with that, John is available and it's a super quick thing for him. So again, I will say, please do not rely on the internet. Please have your PowerPoint downloaded ahead of time. You're going to hear me say this a million more times and put it in a million more emails, but I promise it will make you feel so much more prepared and confident and collected going into what should be an enjoyable presentation. All right, accessibility. We will have a microphone in every room. We do ask that all presenters use the microphone. This is an accessibility thing. We want to make sure that all of our attendees, front row to back row, are able to hear. You may think that you are projecting and are the loudest person and, able to be heard clearly. But what we have found from an accessibility standpoint, and we is not MCAN, we is, a much larger context, is that we're not as loud as we think. Our diction isn't as clear, our pronunciation. And so using that microphone is really important. And that way we also don't put anybody on the spot who might be hard of hearing, or, maybe they're sick and they're just a little bit plugged up, of having to say, can you speak up? And then we go back to what we're used to, and then having to raise their hand and say, can you speak up again, please? So please use those microphones. All of the microphones are handheld. They will have a little switch on the side. None of them there's no buttons. It's just a little switch on the side. You switch it on and the light turns green. Give it 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then you speak into it. I do this every time and I get made fun of, but it's really, really helpful. If this is your microphone, holding it parallel, whoa, my background's not working so well for this. Holding it parallel to the ground and close to your mouth is the best way. That's going to help people really pick up what you're saying. Holding it down here is not helpful to anybody. So please use your microphones. Think about maybe holding it up here. And again, if you have any issues with this tech, you can reach out to that MCAN representative and they will get the right person involved. And I forgot my favorite fun fact about microphones. Microphones are directional. So the reason we hold them up here is because they only pick up what's coming directly into them and not from all different ways. So a little context for you. Uploading handouts, presentations, other resources. Again, this is all really helpful for accessibility. If, someone would rather have it open on their computer versus like looking up at the big screen, maybe if they're sitting in the back, it helps folks orient to what you're talking about and be best prepared. Some people also really love a printed version. Our executive director is one of those people. He would probably print off every single handout before the session so that he can take notes. Considering how you plan activities that may require movement, I think that this is pretty clear, but if we have folks who are less able to move easily or move quickly, think about how you can adjust for different bodied folks in the room. Text and visuals are large. Again, that seems like kind of a clear thing, but one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people like to put a lot of things on their PowerPoint presentations. Maybe you're trying to capture a data set and you've stuck it on a screen and it looks fine on your computer, but maybe try putting it up on the projector because sometimes those things don't come through quite as clearly, especially if it's a lot of information on one screen. For me, this page, actually this one that is up, accessibility, kind of feels like the maximum amount that I would want to have written on a screen. Other things to notice is that these words, the written words are on a white background. They don't have other things going on behind them, a photo dropped in that makes it hard to read. So just think about some of those things. Verbally describing important visual information. If you're referencing a picture, it is very helpful for accessibility to say what is in the photo. So for example, you might, for this is part of our MCAN logo, so I might say like the blue MCAN logo is displayed on the left side of the screen. Okay, that was a lot. Are there any questions? Okay, so somebody asked in the chat, are there any other options for microphones? I'm a wheelchair user and can't hold a microphone and move. Yeah, totally. We can accommodate that. Unfortunately, you are logged in on my link, so I'm seeing your name as Mora, which I assume you are also not Mora. Could you either send your name here to the hosts and panelists or send an email to the conference at micollegeaccess.org, and we'll make sure that there's a lavalier in your room. That's no problem. Thank you. Is it a podium, stationary mic, hand mic, lavalier? It is a handheld microphone and it is wireless. So you can go anywhere with it. Well, almost anywhere.
We've gotten a few questions about accessing the Speaker Resource Hub. Don't worry about finding that link that I promise you have received in your email, but we will send it again as a follow-up. So don't worry about finding it. We'll make sure that you've got easy access to that, and we'll give you a heads up if we think there's any ongoing tech issues with CVent when we send that message, but we'll ensure that you have it before the end of the day.
Yeah, and then somebody asked about the Lightning Lab descriptions. We'll get to that in just a second. That's a good question. All right. Whoops. Talk a little bit about a traditional session versus a Lightning Lab and what the differences are there and how you can best prepare for both. So for the traditional sessions, please make sure you arrive for everybody 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. If this means that you need to leave plenary that's happening or leave the session prior to yours early, please do that. And it likely will mean that. So if you're in session 1 and Ryan is opening the conference and he's talking, it is okay, it is expected, and it is appreciated if you just go ahead and get up 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time and make your way to the room. All breakout rooms are theater or classroom seating, theater seating being chairs only, so rows of chairs, classroom seating being tables with chairs all facing the same direction. HDMI connection for visual and audio presentations. Again, we touched on this in the tech section, but there will be an HDMI cord for you and the handheld microphone. For Lightning Labs, same thing, arrive 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. Outside of the door, there will be a sign posted with your session title and a corresponding table number. So it'll say like 1, session title 2, session title 3, session title 4. Please come check the number next to your session title, come in and find the table with your number. A facilitator will be ready to get everybody started and welcome them to the session. And then they will indicate when it's time to switch to round 2. No formal presentations are in this, so there's not a projector for you, there's not a screen. You should be printing handouts if you have something to share. And if you do want to access like let's say you have a graphic that you really want to share, you could show that graphic on your computer. But again, think about everybody at a table. That's 8 people at a table looking at your computer screen. Make sure it's large, visible, probably the colors pop, and people are able to see it from across a table. Again, handouts are ideal. So for one session, you'll see 6 people and then, or I'm sorry, you'll see 8 people and then you'll see 8 people, and that is one session. So 16, I would suggest printing 25 copies just to have a few extras. A lot of times people say, oh my gosh, my colleague would love this. Can I take an extra copy for them? You might want to consider too, if you want to bring business cards, an opportunity for someone to connect with you after. The suggested format of the Lightning Lab is, so as people are coming in, maybe you already have your handouts around the table. Consider bringing a sign-in sheet to collect participant contact info, because these Lightning Labs are much smaller and much more intimate. People generally are more likely to engage with you one-on-one. They're going to want your information. They're going to want to share theirs. So this is a way to kind of get ahead of that. So you're not taking up session time and you're able to say, oh, yep, I'll follow up with you in an email after. So once you've got people come in, their handouts are at their seats, go ahead and introduce yourself and the session title. If you have multiple presenters, we would suggest that as it's their time to share information, that is when they introduce themselves. That way you're not spending a bunch of time just on names and titles right at the beginning. So if I'm going to share something, I'm going to introduce myself, I'm going to like jump right into the session title, purpose, and what I have to say. And then maybe later on in the game, Jamie's introducing herself and what she has to share. Think about that as approximately 15 minutes, the information sharing, so that you've got a solid 5 minutes of Q&A, discussion. Maybe you've asked them to complete a writing prompt at the end, just for them to engage with you and for you to make the most of that Lightning Lab format. Then we have that 2 to 3 minute transition where participants will get up and move to another table. You as the speaker will stay where you're at. Again, that will be a facilitator in the room who prompts that transition to happen. And then the next and the second of 2 labs begins. Okay. Again, that was a lot of information. What else can we answer for you? You can use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. You're welcome to drop it in the chat. If you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you as well so that you can ask your question.
Maura, while we're waiting for any other questions to come in, can you reiterate how someone that's a Lightning Lab speaker will find their session description?
Yep, thank you. So session descriptions for the Lightning Labs are in the printed program, and they will also be uploaded as a PDF file attached to the session in the app. If you would like to confirm your Lightning Lab description, could you please give me an email, shoot me an email, and that is conference@micollegeaccess.org. I'm dropping that in the chat. So if you're going back, like Jamie said earlier, to confirm that what you're talking about matches what you submitted 5 months ago, we can go ahead and re-ping you that information and you'll see it reflected online and in the app relatively soon. Okay,
I see it.
Jason.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Jason, we aren't able to make updates at this point to session descriptions because of signage and printing deadlines that have already passed. Jamie, do you have a suggestion for how to handle this? Maybe trying to match what you've already
Yeah.
written, but providing it as, this is new. I think it's okay for you to go off script a little bit. Sorry, Jamie, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Nope, I think that's fine. I would say, Jason, you want to just make sure that the content stays aligned, but it sounds like maybe there's just some new details that you would love to add. Make sure they're included in your session, but as long as it doesn't change the scope and, broader content of your session, I wouldn't worry about it in the abstract.
Any other questions? And I will follow up. This webinar will, one, share the recording with all speakers, and two, relink that speaker resource page for you so you can access everything. And then the person who asked about their Lightning Lab session description, please go ahead because it's shown as anonymous to me right now. Please go ahead and email the conference email address listed here so that I can get you that information.
Thank you, Maura.
Thanks,
All
Kristen.
questions that you have, this is the email. We're trying to centralize things for you. So when you say I have a conference question, email conference at. We're here for you. We are excited to connect with you in just a few short weeks. It's hard to believe it will already be November. But we look forward to seeing you. And as you have any questions, whether that's about the Speaker Resource Hub, thinking through things in your session, or wanting to connect to talk about tech or anything like that, reach out to us and we'll make sure you get the answer or connected to the most expert person to get you that answer. Thanks for spending time with us today, and you'll see a follow-up email from us. And do not be concerned if you try to access the Speaker Resource Hub or our event site right now. The site is down. It has nothing to do with us. We'll figure it out. We'll make sure you have an update for when that's live. I don't anticipate that will last long.
Oh, it looks like it's already back up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just during the session. We took it down and now it's back up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.